All right, here we go with this bedroom shot. We've got it's supposed to be a night shot, even though it's not really night. It's more of a sunset dusk kind of time in the day. But I'll try to make this more of a nighttime kind of setting. And not only that, but I'm gonna have to remove the power lines and the transformer pole over there and stuff like that. But here we are in Adobe Bridge, and we'll just kind of go through these real quick to give you a quick idea of the raw images that we have to work with. So we've got a few with the flash. We got this one, and this one, and we've got a few without the flash as well. So I'm going to use the one without a flash as my base. Just bring this right into Camera Raw. Start making adjustments to the color temperature. Desaturate it a little bit and add some more contrast to it and try and get a good balance for the base image, and then come back in here, and I think I'm going to grab this one with the flash and kind of focus on the lamp areas where the lights are just a little overblown and overexposed on the other image. And again, I'm just going to do the same kind of tweaks to the color temperature and all the basic stuff. Go ahead and grab that and put it on that existing document and then save it real quick. So now I've got those two. I've got this one as my base, this one to kind of bring in for the lamps and things like that, and then I'll come back into Adobe Bridge and look for one that's kind of good for the outside exterior view. And I think I'll probably use this one for the outside. So I'm just focusing on the left-hand side, not so much on the right-hand side windows over there. And again, just make all the same basic adjustments. Just trying to bring in the sky a little bit, add some more color to it if possible. I'll probably come in there and actually paint in a little bit of the sky itself. Maybe add some more blues to it. But I think that's decent for the left-hand side. Let me see if I can use this one for the right-hand side. I'm just going to reset that to default, and then I'll edit this separately and bring that in as another layer to add to that document. I think that looks okay though. No need to make it absolutely perfect, so I'll close the others, and then I'm going to resize this down to about 4K. Makes it a little bit easier to work with, so I'm going to come back in here and just pop in a mask. Use my soft brush to just kind of paint this in. I don't even need to come in here and really paint it in like that. I can just kind of come in here with a broad brush and just click a few times, and that should be pretty good and get the job done for the most part. It's not really a big deal. They're just a little overexposed, just a tad, but this looks pretty decent overall as a base. Now I'm just going to come in here and make this layer visible to make sure that these are actually lining up, and they're not. Even if I come in here and manually move these, it'll still be off a little bit, but it seems to only be off by maybe 1 or 2 pixels, so that's okay. And since these are basically just square windows, I can get away with using the polygonal lasso tool over here instead of the pen tool. The pen tool is much more precise, but it does take more time. So when it comes to the basic shapes, such as square windows, I'll typically just use the tools like polygonal lasso tool. But for areas where there's some, curves and things like that, I'll just come in here with the pen tool and just take some more time and add in those curves, When it comes to editing, if you can master the pen tool, that's probably about 50% of what you're going to be doing and using as far as your overall tools when it comes to the masking. So if you can get really good at the pen tool, then your masking and selection creation will be very good. It'll be very precise. and your overall windows and masking will look really good. So I'm just going to make that layer visible and then right click and then just add that to the, add that mask to it. So basically we have this one for the right hand side, this one for the left, and then we have these two basically as my base. So the interior is looking a little dark so far. So before I really continue editing the exteriors or anything like that, I'm just going to add a brightness and contrast adjustment layer. And using my soft brush, I'm just going to kind of paint this into the surrounding area. It's usually the top, bottom, left, and right hand corners that typically have a vignetting going on. Let me see if I can kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So a problem that I see with most people's photographs is that the editors don't quite seem to realize that there's some vignetting going on. Vignetting is when there's dark corners on the upper, lower, and left-hand corners. So I usually see this as soon as I start editing, and I want to avoid that. And I want the image to be even and as clean as possible. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm really just trying to paint this in, not just into the middle of the image, but also really focusing on the balance of it when it comes to the corners and things like that. That way it's not only brighter, but it's just more even overall. And I'm not going to leave it like that. I'll paint it in a little bit and then maybe paint some areas out where I felt I kind of went overboard a little bit, but I think that's pretty good for now. So I need to come in here and make sure that I actually feather these masks because they're very sharp. As you can see, we can see individual pixels. So I'm just going to come in here and just feather that a little bit. There's the before, there's the after. It just blurs it a little bit so that it's a little bit more soft. And that's plenty right there. So now that I've kind of got the interior set up, I'm going to do the same for the exterior and just use those existing masks and just kind of paint this into the outside because it's looking a little flat and a little dull. And I'll do the same with this area over here. It's really just adding some brightness and adding some contrast. And by brightening up the skies themselves, that should help me when I come in there and try to paint in actual colors, like maybe some blues and things like that. But I'm gonna merge all onto a new layer. That way I can come in here and just start cleaning up individual objects in the scene, such as outlets and stuff like that. I always try to remove things that I have time to remove because it's just going to make the image look a lot cleaner. And I know that this lamp, the light is here, but if I remove it, it just looks cleaner. I don't feel like this is adding to the image. I feel like it's taking away. So anything that I feel like is kind of degrading the image as far as overall quality, I will try to remove. So here is the before, here's the after so far. It's looking a lot better, way cleaner, especially after we remove those things. So there's the interior after I just kind of cleaned it up. Now I'm going to come into the outside, and I really need to clean up these power lines. So hopefully I can get most of it done pretty easily with the spot healing brush over here, because these electrical wires don't look good at all. I know the agents always want these removed. If there are power lines in the backyard and things like that, they will typically always ask for them to be removed. But even if they don't even if they don't request it, I will typically still do it as long as I have time to do it. If it's very complex and it's going to take a lot of time, I won't do it unless they asked for it. Every once in a while, we'll get that request after the job was sent out to them, that we do remove it. But sometimes they don't ask even after we sent the job out. So more than likely they're happy with how it came out. And for them, it just wasn't a big priority to remove the electrical wires, or maybe a telephone pole that you can see from the backyard or something like that. So I'm trying to use the spot healing brush, and it's just not doing a very good job sometimes. It's actually making things worse. And for me, I typically try to avoid using the AI generative fill. I try to do things manually. I know a lot of people really appreciate those new and convenient features in Photoshop, and they definitely have their place, but most of the time I like to just do things on my own, because I can typically take care of those problems pretty quickly and pretty easily. And I really try not to depend on other systems, because most of the time it's not really an all-in-one solution. Sometimes it gives good results, sometimes it doesn't, you know. And if you don't know how to come in here manually and really clean things up, then it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem if you're completely reliant upon automatic things in Photoshop that are supposed to like really fix things for you. If it doesn't work out with those tools, then you have to resort to Plan B, and Plan B is coming in there manually and really cleaning things up. And a lot of people don't know how to do that, which is unfortunate. You know, people are just too reliant on things to be done for them. I always advocate for learning how to do things manually. That way you have as much control over how things are done, and you can get the best result possible, you know. Everything has its place and its use, but sometimes things work, sometimes things don't. And the Content Aware tool didn't make that absolutely perfect, but it's okay, because we are at such a distance. Nobody is ever going to notice that. What they will notice is the fact that these telephone poles, power lines are now gone. The agent will realize that, and they will definitely appreciate that. So again, just coming in here with the basic Content Aware tools and just trying to remove these things as quick as possible, because I've got about, I think there's about 18 other images for this property. So I don't want to spend all day making things absolutely perfect outside, because it's just not necessary. And the Content Aware tools have done such a great job so far. Even though it was, a pretty manual cleanup process, it's done a pretty good job so far. Let's see the before and after. Let me merge these layers together. Yeah, it's pretty good so far. There's the after, there's the before, after, and it's just much more pleasant, the outside view, much more pleasant to look at outside. And I'll just continue on, and this might actually be a little bit more difficult to do. I'm gonna see if I can't make a rough selection and see what Content Aware will do for me, and it actually did a pretty good job. I'll come in here with the spot healing brush, just try to blend those in together. There's no need for perfection, like I was saying a minute ago. Just coming in here and just trying to make these the edges a little bit more jagged, so that they're just a little bit more like leaves would be, But I think this is fine. Again, I'm just kind of going over the top here, but that's good enough, I think. Yeah, that's fine. And it looks good overall, Before, after, it's just much better now. One thing that I always do wonder about is when somebody goes to look at the property and they saw the virtual tour without the power lines, are they ever upset when they actually get to the property and they see these ridiculous power lines and wires everywhere? Are they ever upset about that? Do the agents always tell them, oh, hey, by the way, there's a huge power line right above the pool outside. Hopefully you're okay with that. But that's something that I do wonder about. So just moving on, I'm going to come in here and see if I can't kind of mess around with some different colors, because there's really nothing going on as far as the sky goes. So I'm going to try and do 2 different colors here, and I'll just experiment with these real quick. I'm going to go with like a light blue and then see how that works. And actually, I think I'll try. Yeah, I don't really like that color that much. Just paint that in and then throw it into a darken blending mode. And that's fine, that adds a little bit more color. And then I'll come over here. I want to see what that will do for this area over here. Do the same. That's fine, I'll leave it at 63%. And then I'm going to just kind of repeat that process with a different color and see which one is more favorable, what looks better and more interesting. Again, throw that into a darken blending mode. And then crank up the opacity a little bit there. I don't know, what do you think? What looks better? Take this down a little bit more. It's looking a little fake to me. Maybe I could use just a tad of both. Or maybe I should just leave it as that. I think I'm going to delete that purple and pink layer, and I'll just stick with the something basic here. I'll leave this at about, I don't know, 45%. I think that's fine. But the image is looking pretty good overall. There's still a few things that I need to do, and it's definitely looking more like nighttime now. There wasn't a whole lot going on with the sky. It's looking a lot better now. So now that I've got the exteriors pretty much covered, I need to come in here and figure out a way to remove the photographer, because he is pretty much right there. So when it comes to these picture frames, it's difficult to maintain the artwork that's in them if the photographer is right here, you know. So what I usually do is just copy and paste an existing area of the image itself, and I'm going to try to do that now. Most of the time this doesn't have to be perfect, and usually it's not perfect. It just needs to be enough to get rid of the photographer and have a somewhat believable result. And the further you are away from the picture frame, the better, because it doesn't have to be like picture perfect. Yeah, and that should work for the most part. Let me see if I can't just use the liquify tool here real quick. So come in here to liquify, and all I'm trying to do is just push this out so that it gives me more room to work with, because I'm going to add a mask to this and just paint it out. But I need a little bit of breathing room. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. So I'm just going to paint this out. Make sure I get the character's foot there. And this is just really, really basic stuff. But again, you know, in a short amount of time, I was able to really kind of knock that out. And that looks good. It's totally acceptable from a distance, because it's not like the it's not like this picture frame is I don't know, somewhere much closer. I was trying to think of an example of where else it could be other than the wall, but it's definitely looks decent. So the image is pretty much being wrapped up right now. It's still not done. I do need to review this image along with all the others after I edit them. And that's what my final review process is really all about. I review all the images. After I finish editing the property, I let it sit for like maybe 10 minutes and then I just come back to it with a fresh eye. I try to do that with pretty much anything that I work on, whether it's a photograph or a website, any kind of project. It's always good to just come back later on and after you've given yourself some time to not look at it, you know, because you get so warmed up to it. You stop being critical of what you're looking at. I know I say it all the time, but it's such a helpful technique to just take some time away and come back to the image later on. And I'm just looking for different lens spots, like dirt spots that may be on the image that I don't see right now, but overall this is looking pretty good. And I'll come back to it in a minute and do a final review. But for now, this is a pretty good base, and I think it's looking good so far.